Greetings to everyone and welcome to the session. Uh, let KH letters to CW Leadbeater, second letter, commentary by C. Chinnarajarasa, part 4. And let's start with a prayer and short meditation followed. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwarah. गुरु साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. Okay, thank you. Sorry. And let's welcome our speaker and our beloved sister Vimal Balachandraji. And as we know, she is the member at Tadayar Lodge, Chennai since 2010, and she is going to present the next part. And please welcome ma'am, and the stage is yours.
Thank you, Sister Deepika.
And
we can continue from where we left. We were doing letter number 2 to CWL, and we are reaching the end of this letter. So, just to remind you all, the letter is in front of you, which we have read many times. Today, we are just going to take up two phrases. One is, and my poor blessing, and second is, shield you from every evil. So, we'll see how this goes. So let us start. And my poor blessing. So here he's referring that SKH is giving the blessing to CWL. So what does the commentary say? It says, one might as well ask why the master should use this very depreciatory phrase about himself. That is, why is the master saying my poor blessing? Poor is a very like a low term. One might as well ask why the master should use this very depreciatory phrase about himself. Yet that very use leads us to a great fact of occult hierarchy, which has a deep significance. Not once, but all the time, consistently, the adepts show a wonderful reverence towards him who was the last Buddha of humanity, Gautama Buddha. For he was the first of our humanity to achieve, through his love and self sacrifice for our sakes, the height of development as a Buddha of humanity. In the arrangements for the guidance of humanity in what is termed the occult hierarchy, the three great adepts form a triangle of the forces of the solar logos. They are the Lord of the world, the Buddha, and the Mahachohan, each being an embodiment to the world of the power and the nature of the first logos, second logos, and third logos, respectively. So this whole part of the commentary we can see in the diagram of masters and the path, where you have the three logos, first, second, and third. From the first logos, the Lord of the world comes. From the second logos, it is the Buddha. And the third logos, it is the Mahachohan. So these form the Trinity, the lower level Trinity, representative of the higher Trinity. So let us read further. This we know, we all know this diagram very well. On each globe of the 7 rounds of our Earth chain, such a triangle directs the operation of the evolutionary forces on that globe. So on each globe, that is, we know we have 7 globes in our chain. On each globe of our chain, such a trinity will be directing the evolution of that globe. During the period when the life wave manifests on a globe, there are three lords of the world, seven Buddhas, and of Mahachohans, a number which has not been revealed. So we learn a little more about this Trinity, that there will be three lords of the world and seven Buddhas. This we are aware, in each root race we get one Buddha. So about that, the commentary continues. During the long past of humanity, in the first three rounds and up to the period of the fourth race of the fourth round, the office of the Buddha has been held by adepts who have come to the earth chain from other evolutionary systems more advanced than ours, like Venus. Again, this is something we know, that all the Buddhas so far had come from other advanced uh, evolution, like the system of the Venus uh, planetary scheme. But this, let's read further. But it was the Lord Gautama Buddha who was the first of our humanity to achieve the level of Buddhahood. Buddhist books narrate his action of will and renunciation, and the adepts confirm the Buddhist legend as in the main correct in substance. I have narrated that legend in a tale for children. So, after this, the commentary will actually read a part of this story from this booklet called Christ and Buddha, in which there are many short stories. So, the first story is the Christ and Buddha, and three parts of that short story will be present in this commentary. So, what I will do is I will just read that out to you, because really no commentary is required. It is a story written for children. But the second part, and I would request you all to be patient through this part, because the second part of the phrase we'll be going to, which will be talking about the certain controversies and certain inner struggles of Jinaraja Dasa, which is very nice to listen to. So I will request you all to be patient through this part, which is just the story of Christ and Buddha. So let me start. The resolve. Long, long ago, there lived on earth a noble and brave man by name Sumedha. In those days, there moved among men a wonderful being, a Buddha. He was called the Buddha Dipankara. One day, the Buddha and his saints were coming to a certain city. The people of the city were joyful at his coming, and everything was done to make the city beautiful. The roads were swept and sprinkled, the trees hung with flags, and everything was made to look brave. Sumedha joined in this work, for he too knew what a glorious presence a Buddha is and wanted to show his reverence. Sumedha had a part of the road to level and sweep and decorate, but when the Buddha came, his work was not at all done. There was one big puddle in the middle of the road that the Buddha would have to go through. Sumedha would not permit such a thing, and so he lay face down in the mud so that the Buddha might walk over his body to the other side. And as he thus lay down, he said to himself, "May I some day be a Buddha like Buddha Dipankara. May I also some day save the world." The Buddha walked over his body and then stopped and looked at Sumedha on the ground. Then he looked far into the future with the vision of a Buddha and saw that ages hence Sumedha would have his aspirations fulfilled and would live on earth as a Buddha, the Buddha Gautama. So he spoke to Sumedha and to the others around him and said, "This Sumedha is a future Buddha. One day he will be a Buddha and will save the world." The nomination. After the resolve, many ages passed by. Many Buddhas came and spoke their message, each in his turn giving over to his successor the spiritual welfare of the world. But all these Buddhas were not of us. They were none then among us. who could take that exalted office. And so the Buddhas came to us from far off Venus and the Devas. But the time was coming when men should do their own work unaided, when its Buddhas and Manus should be the flowers of this our humanity. Who should be the first Buddha, the first great flower of our human tree? In those days, two only among the millions of men stood towering above the rest in might of grace and love, Sumedha and another. In later days, we know them as Gautama and Maitreya, Buddha and Christ, the Christ. Great as they were then, yet neither was ready to qualify for the office of the Buddha to be of the fourth root race. If neither was ready for the race, if neither was ready for the office at the proper time, surely humanity would suffer. Yet it seemed impossible to qualify in time. So much there was to do, so little time to do it in. Then, little flower, for love of you and me and millions like us, the Lord Buddha made the determination that cost what it might, he would force his evolution so that when the time came for a Buddha to appear to comfort men's hearts, the world might not go unaided. Life after life he toiled, undertaking a superhuman task. So great was his renunciation, so stupendous his achievement, that even the greatest of adepts, Little Flower, speak in awe and love and reverence of the love he bore us, that made him sacrifice himself thus for our sakes. So, of the two, on the same level of advancement, long ago, one, Gautama, took the nomination, while the other, Maitreya, came with him each step of the way as his chief helper. The consummation. 2600 years ago, Sumedha moved among men as Buddha of humanity. That birth was his That birth of his was in India, and men called him for a while Prince Siddhartha of the Gautama clan. But when his work was consummated and he reached Buddhahood, he called himself Samana Gautama, the Tathagata. For 80 years he lived among men, that last of many times. For 45 years he preached and taught, loving his fellow men more dearly than a mother loves her only child. To each he spoke as suited to his understanding, to priests and scholars in deep terms of philosophy, to Chatta, the boy, in boyish verses for him to sing. The story of Chatta is there in this book in a later part. When the time came for him, the Buddha, to pass away, he left that form, never again to return in body born of woman. And so leaving, he gave into the hands of his successor, Maitreya, Lord of compassion, Christ the Anointed, your welfare and mine, little flower, and that of other 60,000 millions, that is 6,000 crores, who form our humanity. The great adept known as the Mahachohan once said, describing himself and his fellow adepts, that they were all the devoted followers of the Spirit incarnate, of absolute self sacrifice, of philanthropy, divine kindness, as of all the highest virtues attainable on this earth of sorrow, the man of men, Gautama Buddha. And later, one of the masters, speaking of their wisdom and love, when compared to those of Lord Buddha, said, we feel as if we are dust beneath his feet. It is for this reason that Master Cage, having given Mr. Leadbeater the blessing of our Lord, then gives him my poor blessing. So very beautifully, Raja explains the entire occult hierarchy and the enormous struggle and sacrifice which the Buddha made to become the Buddha of the fifth root race. And why even the Mahachohan in his famous letter had said that they were all uh, disciples of this great spirit incarnate of self-sacrifice. So we see that Raja often quotes very important parts of our historical, especially the Mahachohan letters and many other aspects. He will quote these things in these letters. In fact, he's quoted large parts of the Mahachohan letter in the previous commentaries. So this is the end of that phase. Now we come to the second phase, and this is going to take most of our talk today. Shield you from every evil. Now, in this part, though we will be reading it, there will be a lot of reference to a certain critical part of the history which deals with C.W. Leadbeater. So let's read. Mr. Leadbeater is no longer with us to attest in what manner the master shielded him from 1884, when he entered the master's work, to 1934, when he was released from that work on the physical plane. During a close and intimate collaboration with him of 45 years, I never noticed a single moment when his utter trust in the master wavered by even the tiniest flicker, nor when his enthusiasm for the master's work flagged. During the 11 years of my life with him in England from 1889 to 1900, when he provided for me and my education, life was not smooth. So we know this little history. If there is a book called Seven Wheels of Consciousness, written by C. Jinaraja Dasa, if you go to the last chapter in that book called Envoy, there Raja will describe exactly what happened in that period. Now, C.W. Leadbeater had come to Sri Lanka. He joined TS in 1884. We know that whole history, how he met Blavatsky, all that we know. We did it last week. Now, in 85, he was in Adyar. That's when he had the occult training given to him by Master K.H. Dwalkul and other masters, from which point onwards he became clairvoyant. After that, he was asked by Olcott to go to Sri Lanka to start spreading Buddhism there. And it was in that period that he was also told by the master, KH, that his own younger brother would be there found in Sri Lanka. He had a younger brother called Gerard who passed away. And the master told him that his brother had been born in Sri Lanka. So while he was living in Sri Lanka in 1886, he was also looking for this younger brother. And of course, he had the training, which we saw last week also, that he would train young boys in various disciplines, educate them in giving them various opportunities of learning. So he was involved in the same type of work when he was in Sri Lanka also. And at that time, when he was scouting for his own brother, he found it was Raja who had been that brother. So in 1889, in that chapter in the Seven Wheels of Consciousness, you will come across how Raja, actually, Leadbeater had been asked to come back to London by Sinnett because Sinnett wanted Leadbeater to teach his own son Denny and also the Francisca Arundale's nephew, that is George Arundale, along with Denny, his son. So now let us look at this part. It will come now. Acha, it is not coming yet. Maybe it will come a little later, but I'll just explain this part. So what Leadbeater did is he asked Raja also to come along with him, and Raja was keen to go to London and continue his education in London, but his parents were not keen. What happened and how the parents got convinced is a longer story, which I will not get into now, but you can read it in that article. It's very nice and very interesting. So let's continue here. So this is how he has now reached. He is now in London that is Raja is now in London with Leadbeater, and they have a tough time. They have hardly any money. In fact, Sinnett himself went through difficult times. Initially, he must have been paying something to Leadbeater uh, for coaching his son. But later, even Sinnett had tough times because he was also not getting any proper income. So that might have affected Leadbeater also. So we'll see. He had no means of his own, that is Leadbeater, and had to earn his living first as a tutor to Sinnett's son, and then as a teacher giving English lessons to foreigners in London, and later as a journalist on the staff of the London office of the Pioneer newspaper of India. So he, maybe with Sinnett's help, he got a job in the London office of the Pioneer newspaper. There was a period when his income was so low that he and I lived in a tiny room for which 7 shillings were paid for rent. It had just enough room for 2 beds and a table and a couple of chairs and a box or two and a washstand. His considerable collection of books was tied up in bundles and placed under 2 beds. I had my classes to attend and he his lessons to give or his office to go to. My share was to look after our very modest housekeeping. I recall a day when the only money in hand was 1/2 penny, though a few shillings was expected in the evening. Fortunately, he had still some good clothes left, for it was de rigueur, that means it was a rule, that at the meetings of Mr. Sinnett's lodge, the London Lodge, of which Mr. Leadbeater was secretary, all should be in full evening dress. There were occasions when his dress suit and gold watch were pledged with the pawnbroker. So, well, famously, theosophists have always been poor. So that's the whole story here. In the outer world, there were ups and downs for him, and a particularly trying time in 1906. Now comes to the part which actually will probably take most of our time today. This whole controversy of Leadbeater in 1906. So let us read this. In the outer world. So apart from all this controversy, difficulty, that 11 years of not having much money or anything and still living in London, etc. Eventually, of course, Leadbeater will go to come to India and work with Besant, but he's also traveling all over the world and he is lecturing all over the world. In 1897 is, I don't know, 1887 is when Devakanik Plane and Astral Plane. Those 2 books were written by Leadbeater, but Leadbeater is continuously doing research. So we know in 1895, the occult chemistry's first part was released by Annie Besant and him. Then the later part was in later on in 1907, I think. But then so many books, so much research was continuously done. Most of his lectures were so good, Leadbeater's lectures, that Alcott would ask permission to have it printed immediately in the Theosophist, and he'd say, yes, the lecture is so good, we will keep compiling your lectures and later convert it into books. So there was so much work that he was doing. So all that was going on in that period. But in 1906, something changed. So let me start again. In the outer world, there were ups and downs for him, and a particularly trying time in 1906, when his greatest colleague, Annie Besant, seemed to break the bonds of a deep friendship between them. But his attitude was one of serenity, for the only thing that mattered was that he should be true to the master's work and not be swayed by the judgment which others formed of him, though he felt much the estrangement from his greatest friend. But he said with perfect confidence, it will be all right, for presently she will understand. Now, to know this whole story, there is a book online available written by Pedro Oliveira called CWL Speaks, in which that entire Times controversy has been written. What happened in 1906, how CWL was asked to resign by Alcott, what were the circumstances, which we cannot go explain in an online forum, but it can be easily understood. And in today's context, you will really feel sad that Leadbeater had to go through all that because of a certain Victorian prudish mindset that the Theosophists had then, not accepting the realities of life, and that Leadbeater stuck with integrity to his ideas, his thinking, and later on, even Annie Besant supported him and brought him back into the society in 1908 after he was asked to resign while Olcott was there. So, after Olcott's passing, and after a year of that, Annie Besant had got him back. That, of course, caused a lot of problem to the society itself. The German section moved away from us. But already such things had been happening. If you notice, when William Conn Judge and Annie Besant had some issues with each other, or William Conn Judge was saying that he had some letters from the masters, neither Olcott nor Annie Besant could believe that. That caused the entire American section to move away from the TS at Adyar. All of these kinds of breaking and remaking and breaking and remaking had been happening all along. What people thought at that time was the right thing to do, the leaders did. So at this time, when Olcott was presiding and Leadbeater was asked to resign, in May of 1906, he resigned. So let us look at this further. As to the fact that even some of the oldest and most balanced friends on whose sanity he thought he could rely turned against him, he was content to remember St. Paul's saying, "Who art thou that judgest another man's servant? To his own master he standeth or falleth." So here he also, Leadbeater also had lost a lot of his friends, people who had been supporting him, who cared for him, also uh, were became went against him. Now, for this quotation from Saint Paul's, "Who art thou that judgest another man's servant?" Because Leadbeater was a servant of his master KH. Who are you to judge the servant of another man? As long as that servant is true to his master, it is only to the master that he is answerable. So, as far as that is the only thing that matters. And in this context, how Annie Besant changed her mind also comes in that book, CWL Speaks, because she was also part of the group that accepted Leadbeater's resignation. 1907 January, when Olcott was dying, the two masters visited him in his deathbed. Olcott, of course, everybody was disturbed by what had happened. So Olcott, on his deathbed, asked the masters, "Is it true that Leadbeater and Annie Besant meet you in the astral planes?" For which the master said, "Of course they do." So Annie Besant was there in the room. There were other people also. And that confirmed to Annie Besant also that whatever she thought inside her about the situation was true, and of course, which led her to Leadbeater being taken back. Let's continue. This thought is to a chela the lighthouse, beacon of home, when tossed in the stormy seas of karma. Which thought? The thought that we have to be true to our own master. In a way, our own master, whom we may not have see, unfortunately, we probably in this birth, but we sense maybe our own higher self. But that means we have to be true to what is seeming to be true to our higher self, the truth of things which we only know, which the world doesn't know. So this is like a lighthouse, this aspect that we have to be true to our own master, even when we are facing the worst karma. To my own master, I stand or fall. He is my judge, not any other. Such a trust in the master is the only another aspect of a trust in himself. That is, we have to trust our own self. This is the same thing. Whether we call it the master or our higher self, we have to be totally true to that. There was one occasion when his master's shield. So, may the master, the whole commentary is about may the master shield you from all evil. So, now we come to another part in which another short story is narrated by Raja. There was one occasion when his masters, that is CWL's master's shield, came before him and prevented stormy winter evening in London when he was returned with head bent down and struggling to hold his umbrella against the wind and the rain. That is, he's coming back from some tuition he is giving, and you know the weather of England and London always raining, and he was struggling to hold his umbrella against the wind and the rain. Suddenly, he heard the master's voice, "Jump back quick! Jump back quick!" He sprang back instantly, and he had scarcely done so when there crashed at his feet a large chimney pot, dislodged by the wind or by a dukpa. When he returned home, he told me what happened only a few minutes before. In this picture, you can see one example of a chimney pot. This is like a covering over the chimney, because if they don't cover that chimney, uh, but it also, not only is it a cover, but it also has got gaps in which the fumes can exist, the smoke can exist, but it is a covering over the chimney, otherwise water will come through the chimney. So that is called a chimney pot, and that chimney pot fell exactly in that location where CWL was standing. So uh, the master told CWL in his inner voice that please jump back. I know myself what is the master's shield. Now CWL, now Raja will talk about how the master has protected even Raja. I know myself what is the master's shield, and I must give my testimony to it, though it means the drawing aside of the curtain which hides from the world one's inner life. In fact, this other article written at the end of the Seven Veils of Consciousness by Raja, it is written 1 year before he died in 1952, and in which he reveals how he met the master. I do so in the trust that it may encourage others to pledge themselves again and again to be firm to the end. The Master has never lessened my karma nor prevented me from making blunders. I think this is also very important for us to know that we still have to face all the karma that we have, and we will still make our mistakes. The Masters don't interfere in all that. But seeing that I was committed to his work and was trying to serve the cause of humanity in my little measure, as he serves in his large measure, when I was in the depths, the light of his tenderness and understanding has shone before me. And when in the sunshine, he has flashed before my imagination and idealism, greater ideals to pursue. So we'll just read a little further, because here he will talk a little more about what were the struggles he was going through. There was an occasion in this life when the most horrible karma of all my lives, beyond the wildest dreams of my imagination, had to be endured. A block of karma which had to be got out of the way, but the violence of whose onrush would certainly have swept me off my feet to destruction. 31 years before it happened, he foresaw it coming and gave me a precious gift, a true remember me, a source of inspiration which was for many years a surprise to me because I had not earned it then. I have ever had for him the wonder of a child. Here he's referring to the master. I have ever had for him the wonder of a child, for the utter kindness and beauty, the wisdom and power of a father whom gaze on whom was fascination and joy. Naturally, as a scholar, one is wondering 31 years before it happened, what happened? What happened 31 years ago? Firstly, we know that 1889, when Jinaraja Dasa saw the masters first, right after that, he went off, and all those incidents happened. 1906 happened. And what happened in 1906 repeated itself in 1912 when J. Krishnamurthy's father filed a case against CWL. It also repeated itself in 1921 when certain parents put police charge against Leadbeater in Australia. This whole period from 1906 to 1928 was a terribly difficult period for C. Jinarajadasa, who stood up for Leadbeater at every stage. Because when the first accusations were made by a particular American parent in 1906, C. Jinarajadasa wrote a circular and in defense of Leadbeater and sent it to the whole American section. Later on, in 1912, he even went to the court to defend Leadbeater. And he was constantly in the limelight for defending. He was himself ridiculed and criticized. He faced a lot of turmoil because of that, because he knew the truth, because he had lived with Leadbeater for 11 years. He knew him in and out as an elder brother, as someone he deeply cared for. And the suffering which another feels, the suffering which Leadbeater must have felt, that was felt deeply by Raja also. So 31 years before it happened, 31 years before what happened? I calculated this. This refers to that 1921 charges possibly in Australia. 31 years before that, 1920-21. The 31 years before that is 1889 when he saw the masters first. Now, another thing he will say now, which will also give you an indication of the inner state. Now, he's talking about the master here. He foresaw the work I would do for him despite the defects of my character and desired that I should slowly grow in the special resistance I needed in the trial to come. And 3 months before the karma commenced, when I lived in the sunshine, he showed me, with not a hint of the disaster which was to happen so soon, the picture of the future of eternal joy which I never dreamt after that karma should be done with. Now, this refers to a book, a small booklet called Flowers and Gardens, which was published in 1908 by C. Rajadasa, in which the future of humanity, possibly in the sixth root race, is written where uh, it's about children and about old people and how they live in harmony and on certain kind of intuitive life that they live, a very pure life. How people administer, what sort of a life it will be like. That whole story is a vision of the future. It's a small booklet called the Flowers and Gardens. It's available in our TS bookshops, and it's interesting to read if you understand that that was the vision or in a dream that was given to Sri Jinarajadasa before the 1906 calamity happened, and that is what he's referring to. That 3 months before the karma commenced, because in the karma of CWL, Raja's karma was also involved because they were so close, they were so fond of each other. So, through all the years of the terrible trial, when he could not make the anguish of my pain one whit the less, the vision he gave stood before me, teaching me never to lose hope. For lo, I am with you always, even unto the end, and to be utterly certain past and all doubts, how sunshine and joy, not for my sake, but for that of others, would be mine once again. Let me read that again. And lo, I am with you always, even unto the end, and to be utterly certain, past all doubt, of how sunshine and joy, not for my sake, but for that of others, would be mine once again. Thus has been his shield to me. So Master's telling him from inside, his voice is coming that this period will go away and Leadbeater will get the respect that is due Actually, the entire society was divided. TS society was divided in this whole thing. Even in that whole resignation, when the matter came up in 1906, there were 12 people, 6 voted for and 6 voted against. So it was Olcott who had to decide. So it was always divided, and there were people who were so vehemently against it. So this whole thing was very traumatic for almost all members at that time. And of course, person who felt it, like you can see here, is Raja. But in his other book, that Veils of Consciousness, he will say that I always put up a pleasant smile. I never let anybody know what I was really going through. Also, there were other difficulties. Later on, when Annie Besant died in 1933, Ernest Wood versus Arundel. That was the presidential election situation. And there was an Ernest Wood group and there was a George Arundel group. Gina Dasa's wife Dorothy was supporting the Ernest Wood group, whereas there was the Arundel group who wanted to go back to the original Blavatsky and Besant idea. So some controversy was there. Ernest Wood was looking for doing something new, something different, because he thought that the ideas were becoming very rigid. Some controversy was there. So those type of controversies continued even after Annie Besant's death. Of course, Arundel then became the president. Were Mr. Leadbeater, let's continue now. Were Mr. Leadbeater with us at this moment, he would say to all, as I am saying, trust in thy master, work tirelessly for him, and he shall give thee thy heart's desire. So this is the last lesson in this book.
The name and price, fair bargain maker.
Then, here I have just gone through all the things that I have been telling you all about. What was the nature of Raja's pain, and really, it's very difficult to read that book. CWL speaks, but it's worthwhile to understand the history of Theosophical Society, so that we don't make those mistakes again. We can easily make those type of mistakes again when we blame somebody, we find fault with somebody without knowing the full story, without understanding the background, and really cause a lot of harm to the society by such criticism. Also, one other thing that I saw in that book itself was that when Annie Besant was being elected, there were only 12,000 people in the society, only 12,000. So it was always a very small number. Even in 1907, it was only 12,000 plus some numbers who actually voted for the elections. So it's always been a small group. And when you have a small group, it's small family. So as like in any joint family, there will be discord, there will be difficulty. And we must remember what the master said, that discord is the harmony of the universe. Through discord, we must come to harmony, so that we live with harmony with each other and also continue with our own personal growth. Here, I would like to end with Raja writing about Leadbeater there's another book called The Occult Investigations, which Raja has written about all the occult investigations that Leadbeater, Annie Besant, and Raja did together. In that, he writes this, and I think this is a beautiful tribute which he makes to Leadbeater. So he's writing here about Leadbeater. He says, ever kindly, a rigid taskmaster, training us to perform each task efficiently, inspiring us with a lofty ideal of truth and honor, unsparing of himself in the master's work, giving us an unforgettable vision of righteousness. These he taught me, my brother, of the past, the present, and the unending future. Thank you so much for patiently listening.
A big thank you, Vimalji. That's really so pleasant to hear. The cleanest explanation happened between them, and you really made the Jina Rajadasa's writings feel alive, and helped us to learn more. And thank you. Let's welcome our one of our dearest members, Sushma Srivastava ji, and she is our.
No, today it is Meenakshi. Meenakshi who will be giving the
sorry.
translation.
Yeah,
Sorry.
sorry. And um, she is Meenakshi, and let's welcome her. And ma'am, the stage is yours, and please continue.
सभी को नमस्ते और थैंक यू सिस्टर विमल जी एंड दीपिका जी। आज हम महात्मा KH ने जो CW लेडबिटर को पत्र लिखा है, तो उस सेकंड पत्र लेटर में से हम जो वाक्यांश ले रहे हैं वह है एंड माय पुअर ब्लेसिंग्स। मास्टर ने स्वयं के लिए इतना निम्न स्तरीय शब्द क्यों इस्तेमाल किया, यह प्रश्न किसी को आ सकता है, ऐसे सी जिनराज दास लिखते हैं। वे कहते हैं कि लेकिन यही हमें सिद्ध संघ की महानता और गहनता की ओर ले जाता है। हमेशा ही सिद्ध पुरुष मानव जाति के आखिरी बुद्ध गौतम बुद्ध के प्रति प्रगाढ़ श्रद्धा रखते हैं, क्योंकि वे हमारी मानव जाति के पहले ऐसे महापुरुष थे जिन्होंने मानव जाति के कल्याण हेतु प्रेम, करुणा और आत्म बलिदान से बुद्धत्व प्राप्ति की, जिसे ऑकल्ट हायरार्की कहा जाता है। उसमें मानव जाति को गाइड करने हेतु 3 महानतम सिद्ध पुरुष मिलकर सोलर लोगोस की शक्तियों का एक ट्रायंगल बनाते हैं। यह महापुरुष लॉर्ड ऑफ द वर्ल्ड, बुद्ध और महाचौहान, इनमें से प्रत्येक दुनिया के लिए क्रमशः फर्स्ट लोगोस, सेकंड लोगोस और थर्ड लोगोस की शक्ति और स्वरूप को दर्शाते हैं। हमारी अर्थ चेन के 7 राउंड्स के हर एक ग्लोब पर ऐसा ट्रायंगल उस ग्लोब पर विकास योजना का संचालन करते हैं। जीवन लहर यानी लाइफ वेव का किसी ग्लोब में अवतरण होने के दौरान 3 लॉर्ड ऑफ द वर्ल्ड्स, 7 बुद्ध और महाचौहान होते हैं। महाचौहान की यहाँ संख्या को जाहिर नहीं किया गया है। अर्थ चेन में पहले 3 राउंड्स और चौथे राउंड की चौथी रेस के समय तक मानव जाति में बुद्ध का पदभार उन सिद्ध पुरुषों ने संभाला था जो शुक्र ग्रह जैसे दूसरे विकसित प्रणाली से आए थे, जो हमसे भी कई अधिक उन्नत थे। लेकिन भगवान बुद्ध हमारी मानव जाति में बुद्धत्व प्राप्त सर्वप्रथम महापुरुष थे। बौद्ध ग्रंथों में उनके संकल्प और त्यागपूर्ण कार्य की जीवन गाथा बताई गई है। श्री जिनराज दास लिखते हैं कि क्राइस्ट एंड बुद्धा नामक बच्चों के लिए लिखित किताब में मैंने ऐसे ही एक कथा का वर्णन किया है। उस कहानी का शीर्षक है द रिजॉल्व, दृढ़ संकल्प। प्राचीन काल में धरती पर सुमेध नामक एक नेक और साहसी मनुष्य रहता था। उन दिनों मनुष्य के बीच एक अद्भुत व्यक्ति रहते थे जिन्हें दीपांकर बुद्ध कहा जाता था। एक दिन बुद्ध दीपांकर और उनके ऋषिगण एक शहर में पधार रहे थे। उनके आगमन के लिए वहां के लोग बड़े उत्साह से शहर को सजा रहे थे। सड़कें साफ कर उन पर पानी डाला जा रहा था, पेड़ों पर पताका लगाई गई, सब कुछ उत्साहवर्धक लग रहा था। सुमेध भी इस कार्य में शामिल हुआ, क्योंकि वह भी जानता था कि बुद्ध कितने महान महापुरुष हैं और वह भी अपना श्रद्धा भाव अर्पित करना चाहता था। सुमेध को एक रास्ते को समतल करके झाड़ू लगाकर सजाने का कार्य सौंपा गया था, लेकिन बुद्ध के आगमन होने तक उसका कार्य पूर्ण नहीं हुआ था। सड़क के बीच एक बड़ा सा कीचड़ भरा गड्ढा था। उसी रास्ते से बुद्ध गुजरने वाले थे। बुद्ध को कष्ट न हो इसीलिए वह कीचड़ में मुंह के बल औंधा लेट गया ताकि बुद्ध उसके शरीर पर से जा सके, और इस तरह लेटते समय उसने स्वयं से कहा, मैं भी किसी दिन बुद्ध दीपांकर जैसे बुद्ध बनूं। मैं भी किसी दिन मानव जाति की रक्षा करूं। बुद्ध सुमेध के शरीर पर से गुजरे बुद्ध सुमेध के शरीर पर से गुजरे और फिर रुक गए और जमीन पर पड़े सुमेध को देखा। तब उन्होंने बुद्ध की दृष्टि से सुदूर भविष्य में देखा और देखा कि युगों पश्चात सुमेध की इच्छाएं पूर्ण होगी और वही धरती पर गौतम बुद्ध के रूप में रहेंगे। और फिर उन्होंने सुमेध और आसपास के लोगों से कहा कि सुमेध ही भविष्य के बुद्ध है। एक दिन वे बुद्ध बनेंगे और दुनिया को संभालेंगे, बचाएंगे। सुमेध के संकल्प के बाद कई युग बीत गए। कई बुद्ध आए और उन्होंने मानव जाति को अपना संदेश दिया। प्रत्येक ने अपने उत्तराधिकारी बुद्ध को दुनिया की आध्यात्मिक उन्नति का भार सौंपा, लेकिन इनमें से कोई भी बुद्ध हमारी मानव जाति में से नहीं थे। हम में से कोई भी बुद्धत्व के लिए सक्षम नहीं था। इसलिए सुदूर शुक्र से और देवों से बुद्ध हमारे यहाँ पधारे। लेकिन अब वह समय आ गया था कि मनुष्य को स्वयं ही कार्य करना था और उसके बुद्ध और मनु हमारी मानव जाति के वृक्ष के ही पुष्प होने चाहिए थे। उन दिनों लाखों लोगों में से केवल 2 ही कृपालुता और करुणा में सबसे उच्च श्रेणी में थे। वह थे सुमेध और एक अन्य सज्जन, जिन्हें हम बाद में गौतम और मैत्रेय, बुद्ध और क्राइस्ट के नाम से जानते हैं। उन दिनों वे कितने भी महान क्यों न हो, फिर भी कोई भी चौथी रूट रेस के होने वाले बुद्ध की पात्रता नहीं रखते थे। यदि सही समय तक कोई भी इस पद के लिए पात्र नहीं होता, तब जरूर मानव जाति की क्षति होती। ठीक समय पर काबिलियत लाना लगभग नामुमकिन लगता था। कम समय में पात्रता हासिल करने बहुत कुछ करना था। फिर नन्हे फूल आपके और मेरे प्रेम के खातिर और संपूर्ण मानव जाति के प्रेम के खातिर भगवान बुद्ध ने यह दृढ़ संकल्प लिया कि चाहे जो भी हो, वे अपनी उत्क्रांति को गतिशील करेंगे, ताकि जब मानव जाति को सांत्वना देने, ढाढ़स बांधने के लिए बुद्ध के पधारने का समय आए, तब दुनिया बेसहारा न रहे। जन्म जन्मांतर उन्होंने कड़ी मेहनत की, असाधारण कार्य किए। उनका त्याग इतना महान था, उनकी कार्य सिद्धि इतनी अद्भुत थी कि महानतम सिद्ध पुरुष भी उनके लिए असीम प्रेम और अपार श्रद्धा रखते हैं। मनुष्यों के लिए अपार करुणा की खातिर उन्होंने स्वयं को कुर्बान किया। इस बारे में वे अभिभूत होकर बोलते हैं। सो दोनों महापुरुषों में से जो बहुत पहले उत्क्रांति के समान स्तर पर थे, उनमें से गौतम ने बुद्धत्व का नामांकन स्वीकारा और मैत्रेय उनके प्रमुख सहायक के रूप में हर कदम उनके साथ रहे। 2600 वर्ष पूर्व सुमेध मानव जाति के बुद्ध के रूप में मनुष्यों में विहार करते थे। तब उनका जन्म भारत में हुआ था और लोग उन्हें गौतम वंश के राजकुमार सिद्धार्थ के नाम से जानते थे। लेकिन कार्य पूर्ति के पश्चात जब वे बुद्धत्व को प्राप्त हुए, तब उन्होंने स्वयं को तथागत समन गौतम कहा। लोगों के बीच वे 80 वर्ष रहे। 45 साल तक उन्होंने उपदेश दिए और शिक्षा प्रदान की। अपनी मानव जाति से इतना प्रेम किया जितना एक माँ अपने इकलौते बच्चे से करती है। हर किसी से उसकी समझ के हिसाब से बात की। पंडितों से और विद्वानों से तत्वज्ञान विषयक गहन बातें की और बालक छत्ता से उसे गुनगुनाने के लिए बच्चों जैसे छंदों में बातें की। जब उनके देहावसान का समय आया, तब बुद्ध ने उस शरीर को त्याग दिया और फिर कभी स्त्री से जन्मे शरीर में वापस नहीं लौटे। और इस तरह विदा होते हुए उन्होंने अपने उत्तराधिकारी करुणामयी मैत्रेय, जिन्हें क्राइस्ट द अनॉइंटेड कहा जाता है, उन्हें 6,000 करोड़ या 60 अरब लोगों के कल्याण का भार सौंपा। महान सिद्ध पुरुष महाचौहान ने एक बार अपने और अपने सभी सिद्ध पुरुषों के बारे में बताते हुए कहा कि परमोच्च आत्म बलिदान, परोपकारिता, ईश्वरीय करुणा, इस दुखमय धरती में प्राप्त होने वाले सभी उच्चतम सद्गुणों के मूर्तिमंत स्वरूप भगवान गौतम बुद्ध के वे सभी समर्पित अनुयायी हैं। फिर एक और महात्मा ने उनकी प्रज्ञता और प्रेम की तुलना भगवान बुद्ध से करते हुए कहा, हमें ऐसे लगता है मानो हम उनके पैरों तले की धूल हो। इसी कारण मास्टर केएच ने मिस्टर लेडबिटर को द ब्लेसिंग ऑफ अवर लॉर्ड, हमारे प्रभु के आशीर्वाद देने के बाद उन्हें अपने आशीर्वाद देते हुए माय पुअर ब्लेसिंग्स ऐसे लिखा। अगला वाक्यांश है लेटर में से, शील्ड यू फ्रॉम एवरी एविल, हर बुराई से आपको बचाए। सिद्धराज दास इसके ऊपर लिखते हैं, सन 1884 से मिस्टर लेडबिटर ने मास्टर के कार्यभार में कदम रखा और उनके अंतिम समय तक वे कार्य करते रहे। इस दौरान मास्टर ने उनकी किस तरह हिफाजत की, इसे बताने अब वे हमारे साथ नहीं हैं। 45 साल तक उनके साथ घनिष्ठता और करीबी सहकार्य के दौरान मैंने एक पल के लिए भी उनका मास्टर के प्रति विश्वास जरा भी कम होते हुए नहीं देखा और न ही उनका मास्टर के कार्य के लिए उत्साह कम हुआ। 1889 से 1900 तक इंग्लैंड में मैंने उनके साथ 11 साल बिताए। उन्होंने मेरी पढ़ाई के साथ साथ मेरा खर्च उठाया। यह सब उनके लिए इतना आसान नहीं था। पहले वे मिस्टर सिनेट के बेटे के ट्यूटर के रूप में कमाते थे, फिर लंदन में विदेशियों को इंग्लिश पढ़ाने वाले टीचर के तौर पर, और बाद में भारत के पायोनियर वृत्तपत्र के लंदन ऑफिस में एक पत्रकार के तौर पर अपना गुजारा करते। एक समय ऐसा भी था जब उनकी कमाई इतनी कम थी कि हम दोनों एक छोटे से कमरे में रहते थे जिसका किराया 7 शिलिंग था। उसमें बस 2 बेड्स, एक टेबल, कुछ कुर्सियां, 1-2 बक्से और वॉश बेसिन था। वॉश के लिए जगह थी। उनकी किताबों का विशाल संग्रह बंडलों में बांधकर 2 बिस्तरों के नीचे रखा था। मुझे अपनी क्लासेस को जाना होता था और वे पढ़ाने जाते या ऑफिस जाते। मैं घर का मामूली सा काम करता। मुझे याद है जब उनके पास केवल आधी पेनी थी, हालांकि शाम को कुछ शेलिंग्स मिलने की उम्मीद थी। संयोग से उनके पास अभी भी कुछ अच्छे कपड़े बचे थे, क्योंकि मिस्टर सीनेट के लंदन लॉज, जिसके मिस्टर लेडबिटर सेक्रेटरी थे, उनकी मीटिंग में सभी को वहां की शिष्टता के हिसाब से औपचारिक शाम की पोशाक पहननी थी, यानी सूट पहनना था। ऐसे मौके भी थे जब उनकी पोशाक यानी सूट और सोने की घड़ी गिरवी रखनी पड़ती थी। भौतिक जगत में उन्होंने कई उतार चढ़ाव का सामना किया और 1906 में एक विशेष कठिन समय आया जब उनकी सबसे अच्छी सहयोगी ने, एनी बेजेंट ने, उनके बीच की गहन मित्रता के बंध को तोड़ा। लेकिन उन्होंने शांत चित्तता बनाई रखी, क्योंकि अपने मास्टर के कार्य के प्रति समर्पित रहना, यह एक बात उनके लिए मायने रखती थी। वे दूसरों की राय से प्रभावित नहीं होते। हालांकि उन्हें अपनी सबसे अच्छी मित्र का मनमुटाव बहुत महसूस होता था, लेकिन तब उन्होंने पूर्ण आत्मविश्वास से कहा, सब ठीक हो जाएगा, वे जल्द ही सब समझ जाएगी। उस वक्त उनके सबसे पुराने और समझदार मित्र, जिनकी समझदारी पर वे भरोसा करते थे, ऐसा उन्हें लगता था वे भी उनके खिलाफ हो गए। वे सेंट पॉल की उस उक्ति को याद करके संतुष्ट होते, दूसरों के सेवक चाकर को परखने वाले तुम कौन होते हो? वह अपने मालिक के प्रति कर्तव्यपरायण रहे या न रहे, एक चेला जब कर्म के तूफानी समंदर में डूबा होता है तो उसके लिए यह विचार अपने निज धाम को प्रकाशित करने वाला दीप स्तंभ है। अपने गुरुदेव की नजरों में मैं ऊंचा उठूं या गिर जाऊं, वे ही मेरे न्याय करता है, कोई और नहीं। गुरुदेव पर विश्वास स्वयं पर विश्वास करने जैसा है। एक बार ऐसा हुआ जब उनके गुरुदेव के सुरक्षा कवच ने उन्हें गंभीर चोट होने से बचाया। लंदन में शीतकालीन तूफानी शाम के समय अपने ट्यूशन क्लास से वे घर लौट रहे थे। हवा और बारिश में अपने छाते को संभालने की कोशिश में सिर झुकाए चल रहे थे। अचानक उन्हें अपने गुरुदेव के स्वर सुनाई दिए, तुरंत पीछे हटो। तत्क्षण वे पीछे हट गए। अकस्मात उनके पैरों के पास एक बड़ी चिमनी का ऊपरी भाग गिर पड़ा, जो हवा के कारण उखड़ गया था या किसी दुक्का के कारण हो गया था। जब वे घर लौटे तब कुछ ही मिनट पहले क्या हुआ इसका मुझे उन्होंने वृत्तांत दिया। आगे से जिनराज दास लिखते हैं, गुरुदेव का सुरक्षा कवच यानी क्या, यह मैं स्वयं जानता हूँ, जिसका वृत्तांत मैं यहाँ देने जा रहा हूँ। भले ही इसका अर्थ हो उस पर्दे को दूर हटाना जो दुनिया से किसी के आंतरिक जीवन को छुपाता हो। ऐसा मैं इस विश्वास से कर रहा हूँ ताकि इससे दूसरों को निरंतर आखिर तक दृढ़ रहने का संकल्प करने की हिम्मत मिले। गुरुदेव ने कभी मेरे कर्म को कम नहीं किया, घटाया नहीं, न ही मुझे गलतियां करने से थामा। लेकिन यह देखते हुए कि मैं उनके कार्य के प्रति समर्पित हूँ और मानव जाति के उत्थान हेतु व्यापक तौर पर वे जो सेवा दे रहे थे उसमें मेरा अल्प सा योगदान था। मेरे कठिन दौर की गहराई में उनकी मृदुता और सामंजस्य का प्रकाश मेरे सामने चमका, और जब मैं कार्य सिद्धि के उजाले में था तब उन्होंने मेरी कल्पना और आदर्श के सामने ऐसे और भी महान ध्येय प्रकाशित किए जिन्हें पूरा करना बाकी है। मेरे इस जीवन में एक ऐसा भी समय आया जब मुझे अपनी जिंदगी के सबसे बुरे कर्मों से गुजरना पड़ा, जिसके कभी सपनों में भी मैंने कल्पना नहीं की थी। वह ऐसा कर्म बंधन था जिसे मुझे पार करना जरूरी था, लेकिन जिसकी तेजी और आघात ने मुझे निश्चित ही उद्ध्वस्त कर दिया होता। ऐसा होने के 31 साल पहले ही गुरुदेव ने इसके घटित होने का अंदाज लगा लिया था और उन्हें स्मरण में रखने वाला सच्चा अनमोल उपहार दिया था। एक प्रेरणा स्रोत जो कई वर्षों तक मेरे लिए आश्चर्य की बात थी, क्योंकि तब इसे मैंने अर्जित नहीं किया था। उनकी असीम करुणा और तेजस्विता, एक पिता जैसी समझदारी और शक्ति के प्रति मुझे हमेशा बच्चों जैसा कौतूहल था। उन्हें निहारना मंत्रमुग्ध भरा और खुशी भरा था। मेरी खामियों के बावजूद मैं उनके लिए क्या कार्य करूंगा इसे उन्होंने पहले ही जान लिया था। वे चाहते थे कि आने वाली मुश्किलों का सामना करने की खास हिम्मत को मैं धीरे धीरे बढ़ाऊं। कर्म भोग शुरू होने के 3 महीने पहले जब मैं प्रसन्नता के उजाले में रहता था, तब मुझे उस मुसीबत का जरा भी अंदाजा न देते हुए जो जल्द ही आने वाली थी, उन्होंने यानी गुरुदेव ने मुझे कर्म भोगने के पश्चात आगामी भविष्य के असीम खुशी की झलक दिखाई, जिसे मैंने कभी सोचा नहीं था। इसलिए उस कठिन परीक्षा के दौरान जब वे मेरी वेदना और तकलीफ का जरा भी कम नहीं कर सकते थे, तब उन्होंने दिखाया हुआ दृश्य मेरे सामने रहता, यह सिखाते हुए कि कभी निराश न होना, उम्मीद न खोना, क्योंकि देखो मैं सदैव तुम्हारे साथ हूँ आखिर तक। और बिना किसी शक के यह पक्का यकीन रखूं कि प्रसन्नता और खुशी जो मेरे लिए नहीं बल्कि दूसरों के लिए थी, एक बार फिर मेरी होंगी। इस तरह वे मेरे लिए रक्षण करता रहे। यदि मिस्टर लेडबिटर अभी हमारे बीच होते तो वे सभी से यही कहते जो मैं कह रहा हूँ। अपने गुरुदेव पर विश्वास रखें, उनके लिए अथक कार्य करें और वे आपके हृदयस्थ आकांक्षा की पूर्ति करेंगे। थैंक यू। नमस्ते।
Thank you, Meenakshi ma'am. Your calm energy and precise translation over today's path is really appreciated. And if anyone wants to add a word or a question, please come forward and feel free to unmute. Okay, okay. And sir, Shinde ji, sir, do you want to add a word, sir? Am I audible now?
Yes, yes. I think he has come now.
Yeah, he is saying. Yes, sir.
You called me?
Yeah, sir. And do you add some lines to the speakers? And,
Vimalji, Dr. Revati came to meet me, and
okay.
both of us were listening to you and Meenakshi also.
Okay.
So just now she went out, and then I came inside. What I want to add in this, if time is there, just I want to say, there are saviors, there are helpers, and no doubt our higher self is always whispering what is there that you mentioned in this. But H.P. Blavatsky spoke about, he spoke about the dreams. There are various kinds of dreams which give us the foreseen events, like prophetic dreams. Either we hear the voice or we can see the forthcoming event. And I also experience of such kind of dreams. And those dreams are reality to me only because I have dreamt and that is reality to me. And second type of dreams, she said, allegoric dreams. These are generally only half true, but they are allegoric. Then third type dreams are sent by either adepts and adepts, she says, good or bad adepts, by
Oh.
mesmerizing
Hmm.
or by the thoughts of very powerful minds bent on making us do their will. So this is the dream sent by adepts, good or bad. And fourth type, she said, retrospective dreams of events belonging to our past incarnation. And then she says warning dreams for others who are unable to be impressed themselves. And then confused dreams, which causes some discussed above, as you said, and dreams which are mere NCs or chaotic. So all these are transactions of the Blavatsky laws in page number 67 that I have with me. Just I want to add in this because we get those some instructions in our spiritual path. And I must congratulate Vimalji. I was telling to Revati also. Vimalji has taken much interest in theosophy and he explains very nicely. He understands very nicely. So that's what I was telling. And then I must congratulate you for presenting this. C. Jinratda's life is whole theosophical life. We can read C. Jinratda's life because he was discovered by C.W. Leadbeater and then adopted by the C.W. Leadbeater, educated in the theosophical atmosphere, and very close to J. Krishnamurti.
Yes.
So
And I
all
think
this,
what you mentioned about
yeah,
dreams here, many of his booklets are coming from dreams only.
yes.
Yeah.
This is what I want to add. Thank you very much, Deepika and Meenakshi Bagagadani for translation. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And, okay, and here we are close to the session. Okay, and close with a little prayer. Asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityorma amrutangamaya. Om sarve santu niramaya. Sorry. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Thank you all speakers, participants for your presence.